Welcome, Eloise. Welcome to everyone who is listening to this episode of Awakening Dragons. And I'm super excited to be sharing and conversing and playing with magic with my dear sister Eloise. And I'll just introduce her. Eloise is a fully accredited shamanic practitioner with One Tribe Healing and a shamanic minister with Venus Rising Mystery School and a shamanic crafts woman with the School of Shamanic Womancraft. And she's a sound healer, a crystal healer and healing teacher, as taught by her Lemurian teaching guides in spirit. Now, I think that actually in itself says so much. And Eloise and I met ooh, back in the time when we were still creeping around and couldn't be more than two people out in public. And really, it was the shamanic school that connected us in the beginning. And it's been so interesting to be chatting and conversing with you now in these times because I feel like we've just grown so much and the world has changed so much.
Mm,
So, actually, I'd love for you to just share a little bit about how you feel the energies are, even right now, as
mm,
people are interested in their spiritual growth, as they're
mm,
tapping more and more into their cosmic or multidimensional selves. Like, how
mm.
do you see the energies of that right now and where people's awareness and openings and curiosities are versus where we feel they might have been a few years ago?
Yeah, I think the main thing to comment is the speed of and the rate of change that everyone's going through. I mean, you hear this everywhere. The times we're in now, we're clearing through our shadow work so much quicker. We're, working with higher frequency energies in our healing practices and our meditations, and everything's so fast. So what you and I necessarily learnt back in the shamanic school almost has changed so much in the way we do energy work. Things don't need as much time, with timelines are accessible, and we are in and out of the dimensions, the fifth dimension, for example, so much now. Whereas before, we would work really hard to raise our vibration to get there, right? And so now we're like, oh, at any moment I can access spirit, I can access the higher dimensions, and I can access the joy and the bliss states. And I can also come back to center more easily because I'm moving through my shadow work a lot quicker. You know, I think,
Mm.
years ago, we would spend, for an example, days working through something, and now it seems like things can come up, emotions can be felt, and then they're passing, minutes, and then you sort of move on.
Mm.
So I know everyone's commenting on it, but I think it's really worth talking about because it's an amazing time we're in. And I'm
Yeah.
noticing with the students coming through the schools now, they're progressing through the courses quicker. They're, you know, getting themselves up and running as practitioners so much quicker. And
Yeah.
whereas it took us years and years, and that was
Mm.
a sign of the times we're in. It wasn't a sign of, we weren't able to do the deep work. Everyone's got the same capacity, but it's just literally the collective energy at the moment is so powerful. And the other thing I wanted to mention about that, which I'm really interested in the last few weeks being in this eclipse portal, is the solar sun activations, right?
Yeah.
How active is the sun at the moment in 2024? Like, it's
Mm.
at the peak. I was just looking up on the NASA website a couple of days ago. It's at the peak of a 10-year cycle of activity. So we're receiving
Mm.
more solar flares, more incoming radiation, electromagnetic radiation than we ever have before. And that is another confirmation to me of the times that we're in, that we are rapidly changing and growing at a fast, fast pace because we've got this input of
Yeah.
light all the time. So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's next. I don't know if it can get any faster than this. It's like it's almost like
I'm
what
not sure I
next?
can handle if it goes any faster.
Yeah, but I guess
I've
the
always been the
news
one like,
remains
okay,
quicker.
let's do it all.
Yeah,
Let's do it all.
yeah,
I want to do it all at once. Let's get it done with. And even though we know there really is no destination, there is no end point, and it's just a journey of it,
yeah.
I totally feel you in that things are quite accelerated. Even
Yeah.
as we met in the shamanic school and whatever, I
Yeah.
felt like that was all quite new to me. Even though my background had a bit of hypnotherapy, had a bit of healing work, I didn't feel like I actually understood, how to really connect inwards, that higher self, like all the things we learned at a very foundational level. But
Mm-hmm.
because of the support of, again, the collective energies, and I guess my own and your own and everybody's own commitment to their work, the ability for us to really get those gems and to get those gold nuggets of information, and then I guess integrate them into the wisdoms and into the teachings. Like, I could not have fathomed that I would be in this spot. I would
Yeah.
never have imagined I'd be doing a podcast and calling it Awakening Dragons. I was nowhere. I
Yeah.
did not like public speaking when I was
Yeah.
in my corporate role. I hated
Yeah.
getting in front of people,
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
But it's the times and the energies
Mm. Mm.
support the what are we showing up with, and the why are we actually doing it.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel that acceleration in the energy. And for those who may not be tracking solar flares and those things,
Yeah.
there's a very I want to mention that there really are those signs of science, like tracking the
Mm.
solar flares and whatever, that's
Mm.
available, and that it's
Mm.
not just the new earth communities and the 5D people that are talking about collective consciousness. Like, look towards
Mm.
the tangibility of some of these signs that support that something is happening, that is more, that is grounded. Do you know what I mean,
Mm.
Elo? Like, sometimes we hear a lot of
Mm.
things that people say, but we don't actually know where it's grounded into.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 For instance, I know something you talk about a lot that I really like is cosmic laws, universal laws.
Mm.
That's very grounded way of seeing the world. It's not fifth dimensional and new age. It's timeless laws, laws of resonance and so forth. So yeah, I really resonate with that.
Wow. So all of those solar flares and energies available to us, have you noticed any common themes, kind of what people are working on?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
in your healing sessions or even in your online groups, because I know you've got a few of that. Like, have you noticed some theme of what we're moving through collectively?
Yeah, I've really been feeling a lot of us are retrieving our ancient star soul selves. Like it's such a
Yes.
common theme. I can't, it's happening to me, it's happening to my clients. I do one-on-one sessions as well, but it's happening in the collective of all the people that are channeling and talking about the information that they're receiving and collating. And there's this something about these ancient parts of us that are so wise, but they are very, very old and they go back to the times of the stars. And they're very wise parts of us that we're bringing back. And they're actually very grounded, very, very grounded
Mm.
parts of us. And one little thing that happened to me recently was I went out to some very old stones in Glen Innes, New South Wales, Australia. It's called the Stonehenge. It's like a natural place of stones that look like a Stonehenge, but they arrived there by a volcanic eruption. And they've been
Mm.
there for a very long time, like almost a billion years or something crazy, like the age of this earth, I mean, the age of this country, very, very old, and they've weathered away. And in this place, the star energy in the stones is very apparent. And it's made me realize that our rocks and our crystals and um, our, ancient parts of the earth have been absorbing star energy from the beginning of time to hold a certain level of consciousness, and that we are
Mm.
only now accessing that kind of ancient old energy in a way, and
Mm.
bringing that back into ourselves and integrating. And so we're taking on a lot more light, we're becoming more of who we are, but we're finding these ancient parts. And I think it's really synonymous with the work you do with the dragons. In a lot of people are reclaiming this dragon consciousness or this dragon's part of themselves, which again is really ancient and old,
Yes.
and it's something about us being able to access right back through our Akashic records, through our libraries of lifetimes that we've ever had. We're all getting
Mm.
greater access to the wisdom that we've had in past lives, and bringing that through and anchoring it here in this life as either the light that we hold or wisdom that we share or work that we do. And so, in this solar flare business that we've been having and all this light coming in, just finding a lot
Mm.
of people are bringing in this ancient starlight into their bodies.
Yes.
It's so
Mm.
exciting. It really excites me because the potential for everyone to shine the light of who they are is so much greater than I ever realized, because there's
Mm.
more of us here, you know?
Totally. And I feel you very, very much that that is exactly the energy that I've been feeling. Maybe more and more so, like in the last, couple of weeks, the kind of conversations that I'm having, new offerings that I'm having. So I just soft launch to tell my human self. I just soft
Yes.
launch the Dragon Song Circle. And it's
Mm-hmm.
my first very public way of saying, like, I am dragon and I have a song, because I've been doing that for ages, right? Like the
Yeah,
singing, the
yeah,
toning, whatever. But what I'm seeing, and in the conversations I'm having and in the groups, is as you acknowledge, reclaim, declare your remembrance and speaking the truths of your stories, I find that it's very much gives people the permission of, oh, I also felt that. I also have that piece of information. And then we normalize these kind of conversations and realize that we have much bigger codes and pieces for each other than we realize. They're not always just in the healer, receiver kind of capacity, like I'm talking about just average chat with my astrologer. Well, it's not average because we're, going to the stars and whatnot, but it's very much looking into the aspects of our star seedy selves, right? The Arcturians and the Andromedans and the whatever. But as you're saying, how do we actually bring through that very grounded, very ancient wisdom
mm-hmm.
and then make sense of it or do something with it in our human selves, right? Like,
Yeah,
I have found that as I talk about universal laws and things like that, like I'm very interested in how do we achieve or work on our soul mastery, but bring it through in the ways that can help each other in our human lives, in our human capacity, in our mundane lives. And I think it's really important, that grounded aspect, right? Like we can easily go off into the stars and easily be in the journeys. And so I remind everyone who's listening too, it's like as you come into more remembrance,
mm-hmm.
really try to make that connection and cultivate that self awareness of how does that relate to what you were interested in before? How does that relate to what you're already leaning in towards and what you're doing and being and creating? Like I have always been in love with fantasy and dragons and things, like since I was very young. But I never acknowledged it for anything more than that. I love the stars. I look, stargazing and all of those things. And now finally, when I take inventory of all of those things, I realize, it's like the mastery of ourself to leave the clues for our human self to actually remember who we are.
Yeah,
Isn't
totally.
that funny?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's awesome.
So, what parts of your star self have you recently been connecting more to?
Well, I've spent so many years working on the Lemurian work and a Lemurian crystal awakening for people and myself, which is really opening up to this energy of oneness and unity, and um, raising your vibration or expanding your consciousness through connecting to Lemurian crystals and Lemurian energy. And it's this beautiful civilization that existed 20 million years ago on Earth in the fifth dimension with Atlantis. And many of us had past lives there. And I spent, a good 5 years really working with the Lemurian energy and coming through the healings, retreats, group
Mm.
work, and so forth. But I'm finding now there's this need to go back further through the lineages. So, who were the Lemurians' ancestors? Star people. Who were
Mm.
the star ancestors? Where did we originate from? And it's, yeah, so my interest is going out, branching out further. And every time I sort of reclaim a bit of that energy or have a feel of this ancient star energy that is actually part of me, I actually feel more and more grounded after I receive some of that, through my journeys or my work with crystals. And it actually puts me more in contact with earth. I like to say, like, my earth star chakra seems to be getting deeper rooted, and I feel
Mm.
more like me. I feel more like
Yeah.
me, like just more whole and who I am, in a sense of like comfortable in my skin and in my body. So I find
Mm.
this really interesting relationship with the further out I've retrieved the energy from, and the older it is, the more grounded and on earth I feel. And I think there's just some link there that, the ancient humans and ancient earth was very much looked after by star beings and star people and seeded
Mm.
from the stars. I mean, look at how earth was formed with all these meteorite collisions and explosions and stardust, essentially
Yeah.
forming all our elements. So it's almost like a returning to our roots. So yeah, I don't know if
Well,
that answers the question, but yeah,
yeah.
feeling more
Yeah,
like
I
me.
do. There's like as you're talking, I feel like there's so many other branchy kind of
I
topics that I
know.
want to go into. So, first on the Lemurian thing, how you said there was like a big period of time that you were
Yeah,
doing that. It does feel like often in our soul journey, it's like we need to really come back to that remembrance and mastery of a particular energy, and then you
yeah,
branch out into whatever it is. And so, as Lemurian energy and then the exploration of that is really about, that oneness and unity. As I explore dragon consciousness and, the dragon beings, I feel like that brings me to understanding creator energy, like really creatrix, creator, creating gods, that we are that, right? But how little might we be as humans to dare say that we are gods of creation or goddesses of creation? And it's
mm,
very interesting as you work on those wounds, if you want to call it that, patterns, if you want to call it that. But if we go back far enough, absolutely, we were part of, we were, the first breath, of creation. So I feel like dragons help me to understand, creating. And I
mm,
feel, and I've heard before, they were at the creation of every realm and dimension. And that's why they're everywhere in every lore, in every indigenous culture. And it's really interesting.
mm,
And I'll share one phrase that I recently have been hearing more of. And you said that, we all come from the star collisions and the star dust. But actually, someone is now sharing that phrase that it's from the star fire. It's
ooh, I
the
like that.
animated portion of that living consciousness. The dust
Mm,
might be, afterwards, right? Everything maybe disintegrates into dust, but it's actually the star fire, the
mm,
animated, that aliveness in consciousness that creates. And some parts of, my dragon self that I've been maybe even fearful to fully understand and connect to, I feel like that name or that word of supernova comes. And what supernova is, and if you Google it, it's like when the energy of a star becomes so great, it almost like then it dies. Like it goes so big, it's that boom of energy, and then it actually dies. The star dies. And I saw that as so negative.
mm,
But actually, everything is that cycle, that transformation, the birth and death cycle, right? Like that's, I mean, it's shamanic, that's so many, every cycle is based
yeah,
on that birth and death cycle. If we are here to understand all of creation and what we are visioning, what we are creating, like, so many of us understand or at least want to believe that we're visioning and manifesting something. How do we create? But in order to do that, there needs to be a very grounded embodiment and understanding of death as well in the cycle, and that we absolutely embrace that in order for us to be able to go into the next round of ourselves.
mm,
That's what I felt like sharing when you
mm,
said all that. It's like, yes, it's the creation energy, but I feel quite comfortable in the death. I feel like it's always the part of me that's dying and dying so that the new can emerge. But
yeah,
it's a bit like, okay, let's be finished with that already.
yeah.
Can we just like be on cruise control for a while?
I know, but it never stops, does it? We're just continually
No.
going through that cycles of death and rebirth. And I think, yeah, if you're going to work with the dragon energy, you need to understand that death. and rebirth cycle. And I guess if you're going through any sort of transformation and growth, yeah, you need to understand how to die consciously. Otherwise, it can be really hard, really hard.
Yeah.
So I guess,
Mm.
yeah, dying consciously, that's my phrase for being aware of the changes you're going through and the things that you're letting go and the things that you're saying goodbye to as you step into something new, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And so there's a large part of your work that's, all about the feminine,
Oh,
reclaiming the
yeah.
feminine. Also the work of awakening mermaids, like this podcast, I call it Awakening Dragons. For me,
Yes.
it's the energy of let's awaken the
Yeah.
creator energy in us. Let's awaken our transformation, our magic, our
Yes.
multi-dimensional selves.
Mm.
So how do you feel about the Awakening Mermaids mission?
Yeah.
Like tell me more about that.
That was really unexpected with the Lemurian work because in the literature and the current paradigm of Lemurian healing, there wasn't much talk about mermaids at the time, but it really dawned on me that this is a particular aspect of the Lemurian lineage that's very feminine and needed to be remembered in the collective. It was really interesting that as I was bringing awakening the mermaid courses out and retreats out, that there was all these mermaid movies coming out and mermaid
Oh.
meetups. Mermaid tails were becoming really popular, for women to wear. And I was like, this is something that's really birthing everywhere. And that
Mm.
that really came about through me spending time in nature of places with natural mermaid energy. So beaches around Byron Bay and seeing mermaids and feeling mermaid energy and going, wow, and then getting the downloads and that information that this is part of the Lemurian paradigm and these is a real lineage of women that know how to work with crystal healing energy and that are so connected to the ocean and the dolphins and the whales of Lemuria and oneness energy. And a big part of the mermaid reclaiming work that I've been putting out there for women is to reclaim their mermaid selves, which is their sensual and playful self. It's their sensuality, it's their voice. So, mermaid song is a really big
Mm.
thing, right? In the mermaid legends, you always hear how they sing. Huge about reclaiming sacred sound or using the voice for expressing what is sacred or your channel or what your higher self needs to say or hear, but learning how to tone and sing in a Lemurian mermaid way. That's completely healing. It's like
Yeah.
being able to sing crystalline light. And so,
Yeah.
really, really beautiful thing to tone and to use that as a healing tool. And so that's a part of the mermaid work. But it's also a lot of us have gotten really serious in our modern world. And, when we work, we're in this patriarchal sort of work system where we've got to strive and work really hard. And we forget these mermaid, playful, joyful aspects about us. And we
Mm.
lose our touch with that aspect of our femininity. So it's really like a way of getting in touch with that again as well, for women to relax and follow the path of joy and play. It's like, what decisions would I make if I was connected to this playfulness, that
Yeah.
frolicking in the ocean and following the path of joy. So
Yeah.
the mermaid energy is really, really beautiful like that, to connect to and find in yourself again. And it's a real
Mm.
lineage. It's amazed me how many women are remembering when they were actually a mermaid back in their past lives. Like, it's astounding
Mm.
to me. And so many
Mm.
people identify as mermaids, you know?
Sure.
And like,
Yep.
I never did. I never did. But it wasn't until I saw it with my own eyes in the spirit realms that I went, wow, like, this is something that really needs to be done. It's something that
Yeah.
needs to be remembered out there.
And
Yeah.
when the time, I guess, is ripe, and again, there's more of that energy available, it's just,
Yes.
I guess it's a bit like a pressure cooker, and then it just becomes obvious. Like, of course, we have to reclaim the mermaid.
Yeah.
But now that you're sharing all this, and I hadn't really thought about it in this way, so, Eloise and I met in Byron, whatever number of years ago. And I remember those years because I had just left corporate. right? Like not that long ago, and I was that serious person.
Yeah.
And when I came to Byron and that energy, I just
Yes.
completely turned to that playful self. Like I remember even
Yeah.
having those thoughts of, oh, but it's either I play or I commit to my spiritual path. Like for me at that moment, there was a little bit of an either or because I felt like the spiritual path and, my true self and all of that was like a serious journey. And so it was a really good lesson for me to know that, yes, it's serious, to be able to embody and express as much as we can of our soul mission, but that we can do it with that lightness, that we can do it with that play, and we can
Mm.
do it in our full feminine and still dance and still sing and all of that. So thank you for
Yeah.
that reminder. And
Yeah.
there's parts of me that definitely have mermaidy feeling. I don't feel like it's super prominent, but mermaids have definitely come in my healings, like scales of mermaids, and I feel like there's mermaids and dragons probably are in similar realms. And you said mermaid song, and here I am with the dragon song. Like maybe it's like the mermaid inspired dragon self that's coming
Yes.
through.
Yeah. We did get a link at one of the last retreats I ran. We had a big mermaid dragon connection actually. And there
Oh,
was a blue dragon lineage that we identified as the ancient ones of the Lemurians. So the Lemurian
mm,
mermaids saw as their ancestors these beautiful dragons. And these dragons were watery, traversing the watery crystalline realms of Lemuria and there to hold the seeds of consciousness, wisdom, and energy that would benefit the Lemurians. So they saw them as the ancient ones. So there was this dancing between the mermaid energy and the dragon energy, and it was beautiful and blue. So there is definitely a connection there. Yeah.
mm,
And I guess they would call upon them as ancestors to assist them. So, yeah, as you said, the dragon lineages are through so many cultures and spiritual
mm,
lineages. There's that common thread of them being seen as ancient ancestors, which is really cool. So,
yeah. Well, they're still showing me the ropes. I feel
yeah,
like, it's always a journey and there's always new things and it's over time. Um, I'm sure that your downloads and beautiful wisdom that you're sharing now, it's not just, one sitting and all the information comes. Like, in our remembrance, you're going to probably remember other things that we do not even have the capacity or space now to even think of. Like who knows what we'll remember. We're going to have this podcast in, I don't know, 5 years, and it's going to be something
yes,
completely different.
I know,
I
right?
know the evolution, evolution is a path. It's a path we can be very aware of and on, or we can just, yep, things are as they are. And I think for me it's that refusal to be now. Things are what you create
Yeah,
them to be. And I'm not saying, that in an ungrounded way. Like obviously our reality is probably reflected to us as a mirror, law of correspondence probably. I
mm,
do feel if you believe and if you're visioning for this new
mm,
earth, for a better earth, for the life that we, is divine for us and meeting our heart's desires, like we are responsible to be part of that creation. We can't expect anyone else to do it.
mm,
Um, so I would like to ask, all of this information, even your remembrance, and I'm so grateful that, you're one of my mentors, guides, friends. I often feel like sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not getting the information. Like it's not
mm,
coming. I don't have these elaborate tales of my life as a whatever. Even my dragon self, like, yes, I feel it and I know it to be the truth. But I
mm,
haven't received all the elaborate stories of, that war and this thing. So, what do you recommend to people since the energies are potent and it's
mm,
available for us to harness? How can people connect more, understand the stories that might be coming through for them,
mm,
and learn to trust it? So, it's kind of two questions. Like, how can
mm,
people be
mm,
open to receive information and learn to trust it?
mm. Think the key word there is trust. It's like learning to build that muscle. It's like riding a bike. Once you trust a little bit, you never quite forget, but you can get better and better. Um, it is a muscle though, and so we need to give ourselves opportunities to trust. But as one of our teachers said, Mark Steinwood, trust your trust and doubt your doubt. So the way for people to really open up to that whole world of their Akashic remembrance is to seed and trust their trust. So every time they, you say you could sit down to meditate for 5 minutes and say, for me, I'm going to meditate with this crystal, and I'm just going to be open to the energy of the crystal, and I'm going to say, breathe the crystal energy into my body and imagine that energy expanding. Whatever happens in that 5 minutes of the images that I see, sounds I might hear, things I might feel in my body, through all the senses that I have, I'm going to trust what I get and I'm going to feed it. So if I get a little thought pop into my mind, I'm seriously going to elaborate on that thought. Oh, that was interesting. And what about that? Or if I sit with a question and I feel an emotion arise in my body, I'm going to say, oh, I can sense some anxiety there. Let's explore that. What's that about? And always have this open, curious mind that allows more of it to come. So the first thing is discovering what senses you've got that are strong, your access senses. You need to put yourself into meditative states, open states to work on your senses. And then, over time, you'll start receiving through all your senses, but usually you start with one or two, and it might not be
Yeah,
the vision one, right?
that's
And
right. Do
then,
not get attached to the
so
vision one.
yeah, do not get attached to the vision one, because the vision one is the one everyone wants, but the feeling and the knowing sense is very much stronger, because you can't be deluded with false images or images that you can't quite interpret. If you feel or know something on the inside, like a gut feeling, you know it's right. So lots of practice of being in a state of receiving. Only need to do 5 minutes at a time. People think, oh, and I don't have time to meditate for hours a day. You really only need
Mm,
5 minutes. But then to really trust what you get and never dismiss it. And I think the main way people go wrong or have trouble is they dismiss a lot of their amazing intuits and their amazing
mm.
gut feelings and their amazing senses about something. They actually, most people have it all inside of them, but they just haven't got the confidence to trust it. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that building that trust muscle, and
Mm,
practice. And everyone's got the ability
absolutely.
to do it. Like, for me, receiving the mermaid information, it was definitely what you said, a gradual process. And yeah, I got big chunks in a day. Sometimes I'd get a big chunk of, I know really what's happening with this mermaid energy. But other times it was gradual, and it was a building up over time, but it was also because I was accessing a part of me that already knew about it. So you've got to go
Mm,
in with assuming, oh, actually, there's a part of me that already knows the answer to this. I'm just trying to
yeah,
get access to it. And so if you
yeah,
go in with
totally.
that mindset, there's a part of me that already knows. I'm just building up my practice of how do I receive that information through my senses, and learning that, then that's how I'm going to get the answers that I need. And, a lot of it's
Mm,
in our body, it's already in our cells, it's in our DNA, it's in our field. It's the concept of where is this amazing information. It's actually part of us, our greater self, our higher self,
mm,
and it's accessible through our body. Our DNA is the portal to it. It's accessible through meditating and bringing light into the field, raising your vibration. You're just raising your vibration to meet this part of
that's
you
right.
that knows, right? So
Yeah.
I just think people probably get frustrated in the earliest stages because it can take a while to get traction, right?
Mm,
But they usually already have the answers. I mean, you can fast track if you go to someone, say hypnosis, have a hypnosis session where someone's facilitating you and holding space for you, that can really help
mm,
fast track. Or if you go through a healing session where someone's holding space for your higher self to be present for you and they're holding light, that is
mm.
really helpful. getting a
Yeah,
mentor
totally.
to hold that space for you, you
And
know?
that's why we do that, right, Ella? Like,
Yeah,
I'm never shy on saying, I need a healing, but it's not like I need a
yeah,
healing because it's, we need to be fixed. It's more
yes.
like, I want the shortcut. I want to remember and just, it's
Yeah,
like, well, you're
yeah,
there, you know how to get
yeah,
there. So, of course, if you want to awaken your mermaid self, you go to someone who's awakened their own
yeah,
mermaid self. You want
yeah,
to connect to dragons, you go to someone who knows how to talk to the dragon. So, how is that any different? You want to get muscles and be
yeah,
fit, you go to get a personal trainer. So, the way that I look
yes,
at, getting a coach, a healer, a mentor, it's like, what do you want to work on? Go and get the person
yeah,
that can just guide you, and they just need to
yeah,
be a few steps ahead.
yeah. And
And what you're
what I'm,
sharing about,
yeah,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
you go. I'm just saying the people that you help or the will always get it a lot faster and go ahead of you. And so it is great to go to people who have sort of opened the door up to that area because you will get it quicker because they've done all the hard work to be there, and then you'll find new things and you'll open up to new areas. And I said go ahead, I just mean like you'll surpass that knowledge fairly quickly. So it's amazing how that
Mm,
works too.
yeah. And you may surpass your teacher.
Exactly.
I'm
And
just and I'm
yeah,
just saying that because we're all door openers. We have a
yeah,
key code, right? But if I give
yeah,
you the key to the castle, I'm not saying you can't go and explore this room and
yeah,
that room. Like, you're
yeah,
just having access to your own
your
memories,
own
your
stuff.
own remembrance, your own
Mm, mm.
gifts.
And I always say
So,
that,
yeah.
like when someone comes into one of my groups, like a retreat, I think to myself, I have no idea what they've done in a past life. I've had
Mm,
people in my group and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I learned from you from a lot of past lives. Right now, I'm here helping you because I've done the work in this human life to remember my mermaid Lemurian self. But I can sense in a past life, their knowledge is greatly and time spent in Lemuria, for example, working as a crystal
mm,
healer, greatly overtook mine. And very soon in this life, they will be utilizing that, fully stepping into that and taking that to the next level. So
mm.
that's what that excites me too, is that idea that,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm always excited to be in a group because, like, it's all the reflections back to you, either reflections of yourself that you're still reclaiming or needing to see, or maybe they're
yeah,
reflecting some shadows back to you as well, but also all the things, as you say, that are not in that moment but are in some past moment. But anyway, like the past, the present, the future, maybe they're all in the same moment. That conversation.
yes.
Yeah, really, really great what you said about trusting and the access senses. So actually, one of my first kind of freebie courses I did was, just reintroducing people to their access senses and being able to trust them, because so many people say, "Oh no, like, I'm not intuitive at all." But then you facilitate a little mini experience or a conversation and you realize you are. You just didn't recognize that that is the feeling talking to you. The goosies or the gut feeling or the knowing or the image that comes. So
Mm,
why do we wait until we get a gut feeling? Like, learn to cultivate that two-way channel to be able to
mm,
speak and to receive information. Years ago, probably when I was starting, I did not trust the trust and doubt the doubt. I was
yes.
just doubting, right? And because one of my strongest senses is clear knowing, clear cognizance,
Mm.
I doubted it. And same teacher, Mark, he would say to me, "Why do you want to see when you just know the answer?" Right? It's
Yes.
like you don't have to move through another layer of interpretation. You just know it.
Mm,
So I think it's really important advice that you said there of just telling people, just trust the trust and
mm,
doubt the doubt. It will lead you. And in reflecting and sharing with others, again, it normalizes things, and other people have the opportunity to say, yes, I got that as well. And that it's not
yeah.
just you.
And that actually takes me to the Lemurian hollow bone. Lemurian energy is this wonderful aspect to it when you come into working with it and remembering it, that there's this thing called this group channel where simultaneously in a group you will all receive and intuit the same things, and you will
Mm,
sense and perceive similar healing energy, and you'll feel it together, and you'll actually be able to work with it together and amplify it. And so building those access sensors and that trust is so important with Lemurian healing and Lemurian crystal healing, because the group as a whole trusts the energy and comes into these beautiful healing frequencies together. And that builds, so as one person trusts a bit more, another one can, and so one says, I'm getting that too, the
Mm.
other one does, and there's one says, I sense that blue dragon there with the blue light, and someone says, yeah, there's a blue
Yeah.
dragon, you know what I mean? And the whole thing grows and expands and becomes quite a strong channel of light. And it's really, really beautiful. And it is an aspect of the Lemurian lineage, this group channel. I think it's an aspect of a lot of lineages, but it's something that's very special and easy to flow into. And that's another reason why we should be building our trust muscles, because together as a trusting group with a hollow channel or clear channel, we can, have so much capacity for healing and bringing healing
Mm.
energy out there. So that
Yeah.
was one of my big drivers with the Lemurian work, to get
Mm.
that shared channel going.
And so we were in a Lemurian circle some time
Yes.
ago now. So would
Yeah.
you say that it's a little bit like that? And by that I mean, we came together, we open space together, we connect up, with our families and our guides and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and then just open to see what comes
Yeah.
through. So would you say that the Lemurian circles or healings is a bit like that, where you connect
Yeah.
in as a group
Yes.
and then open to what's coming through?
Yeah, and also it just gets more cohesive with time. So it's almost like you're telepathically connected and you're all thinking the same thing, and
How
you're
cool.
all intuiting the same thing, And that's that. The shamanic term, as we know, being shamanically trained, is called shared hollow bone. Hollow bone means that you're a hollow channel of light. And so a
Mm.
shared hollow bone means you're all sharing the the same channel of light. And yeah,
Mm.
it just, the more you trust and the more you work with each other, the more cohesive it gets. And it's wonderful. It's
So
wonderful.
I'm just wondering, would that be a useful energy to intentionally connect to, let's say, when you're two co-hosts in a workshop, or you're doing any kind of two-on-one anything, or
Yeah.
two or more facilitators in a group? Like I feel when it's people that I've worked with, like my husband, for example, I know his energy. I feel like we're already in a container. So would you
Mm,
say
mm,
somebody intending to kind of tap into that Lemurian and shared hollow bone, would that be useful in kind
yeah.
of group space and facilitation type
Yes.
environments?
Yeah, definitely. It's such a powerful way to work. And I guess it's, if it's something that resonates with their lineage and something that's part of them and it comes naturally, which it does for most people who like crystals, for example. Most people who like
Yes.
crystals have a Lemurian lineage. I've seen it time and
Yeah.
time again. There's too many years of it proving itself to me.
So why is
It's
that? Why is that? Out of curiosity, why is that?
I think we're attracted to the crystals in this lifetime because we've worked with them in many lifetimes in our Lemurian and Atlantean past lives.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, even people who are rock hounds and non-metaphysical and only interested in the geology, I'm telling you, they're Lemurian and Atlantean priests from a
Yeah,
past
they
life.
just don't know it yet. They just don't know it
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just a geologist.
Yeah, but most people who love crystals have an amazing sensitivity to crystal energy, and that's, the Lemurian shared hollow bone. You're essentially a channel for crystalline energy. It's very crystalline frequencies that you're working with. So I guess if you and Johnny were doing some dragon course and you were both getting very fiery and stuff, yeah, is it the Lemurian energy? I don't know. Is it an aspect of the ancient Lemurian ancestors that you're channeling, or is it the dragons? I don't know, but I think it's certainly super useful when I call it in and I call that light to the group. I can
Yeah.
feel how easy it is for the group to connect, even if they haven't met, and they haven't spent much
Mm,
time together. Like these people who are forming shared hollow bones haven't spent that much time together, just a few days in
mm,
retreat, and they haven't necessarily done the same spiritual work either. But
totally.
when the space is held for it, and the energy's there. Like I can hold the space for it, I guess. Their guides are holding the space. Mine are, or they're all coming together. Then it's pretty powerful, profound. Yeah,
Mm. So, of all my crystals,
yeah.
which, Aloe has, shared many crystals with me, I have the most in Lemurian crystals. I just always feel like, oh, what's the newest Lemurian find? And I don't know, it just, there is a draw to it, and each and every one of them, as you know, are very, very different.
Yeah.
And so, one question about the Lemurian, and then let's talk about crystals just to round out the conversation. Is it also a Lemurian thing to be drawn to working with groups of people? Like some people
Yes.
might really have a
Yeah.
mastery in one-on-one. Like I love it; it's super potent, but I always feel drawn to like, no, I like groups of
Yeah.
people, please. Is that a
So much
Lemurian
so.
thing?
Yeah, and it's a really common memory for anyone who's delved into, I want to go back to Lemurian, remember what it was like. The books that have been
Mm,
written, the channelers that have spoken, my own personal memory, it's always a group working together telepathically to heal. And that was, in
yeah.
essence, that unity consciousness. They were unified. Their consciousnesses were truly unified, like they were one.
Mm,
They were sitting in oneness. There wasn't a lot of
yeah.
separation between them. They didn't know this duality. It was quite a fifth dimensional, airy fairy,
Yeah.
non human existence. And so some of us can get quite caught up in trying to recreate that. That we're
Mm,
not supposed to,
interesting.
we are supposed to live our human lives. But, certainly I have been chasing that group. That was my driver. That is a big driver of mine, to recreate that group healing channel, because
Mm,
it's something that comes naturally and it's so powerful and effective to, help heal others and send healing energy out there and
yeah.
raise as we come, we all know this. When we come together in group, five people come together, their group is not their energy is not times five, it's times 500, 5,000,000.
Totally, totally.
That
Yeah.
is the attraction of the work, you
Mm,
know.
totally. And I find that all the secrets are revealed to you in the movies, okay? Especially in those Marvel comics and superhero
Yeah.
movies. And when you were saying, collective mind or like one mind, I was rewatching this Marvel movie the other day. It's called The Eternals. The Eternals. Whatever. Some of it's really cheesy, but in the end, and I'm not giving it away, but I'm giving it away, they joined their mind together. They joined
Oh,
their mind together and
yeah.
become one mind in order to do whatever they needed to do.
Mm,
So again, like the evidence is out there. It is the truth that we are so much more powerful when we come together. And
yeah.
that's probably also good to know that, when minds come together and maybe it's for nefarious purposes, there's a power and potency in that we need to be aware of. So us light workers need to band together and
Yes.
remember the mission to shine and share our light and all the good things that we're here that we stand for.
Yeah, and I
So I
guess that's
can't talk to go
yeah,
ahead.
go. You finish.
No, I was saying I can't talk to a crystal healer and not have her talk about crystals at all. So, to close the conversation, is there any one? I know it's impossible to recommend one crystal, but what would you
Mm,
like to share about
yes.
the crystal world or
Oh,
what's coming up or just about crystals now at this moment in time?
I think the thing that I'm most excited about crystals is their timelessness and ability to reflect to us the times we're in and to change. So as we grow, the crystals grow. As we open up more, the crystals show us more healing features. As we tune into them more over time, they seem to grow over time. So what we used to do with a Lemurian crystal in a healing context is very different in the 1990s to what we do now. And it's like,
Mm,
I love treating the crystals like conscious beings and seeing them as these places of portals to access consciousness and wisdom, and then seeing that as we grow, they grow, and we grow together. And that is what excites
mm,
me most. So, a Lemurian crystal that I've had in the 1990s, I didn't have a Lemurian crystal in the 1990s, but just that's when they were first found. That's when they were
Yes.
first found. But a crystal from the 90s is going to um, grow and be a crystal for life, and you're going to
Mm.
get different things and you're going to learn different things from it. And so you can't really grow out of crystal, and that's what I love. So I recommend to anyone clear Lemurian crystals. The key
Yeah.
initiation crystal. Clear, they look like
I've
a
got
clear
one.
quartz.
Here, I've got one
Exactly.
here. This is, I think it's
That's
one
the
of the,
classic Lemurian crystal that opens
I
up
think
a portal to this Lemurian consciousness, and it is
that's right.
the classic crystal that was first found, that crystal healers around the world in the 1990s said, oh my God, what is this Lemurian Atlantean energy that's coming from these crystals? That's these beings, this whole civilization that I'm remembering. And it was from the crystals being uncovered. So
Yeah.
clear Lemurian crystals are amazing like that to really, that's what sparked a lot of this in me. Um, and then the fact that they're just like changing so much with
Awesome.
us. Yeah.
And each of them are different, right? Like I think I've just got three or two here. I think this
Yeah.
one's
So
also
you've
a
got,
record keeper.
yeah, you've got crystals with record keeper markings. You've got pink
Yeah.
Lemurian
And
crystals
I
with
love this one because
black.
this is the one that had the little dragon scales over here. Do you remember?
Yes. That's a black
Your little.
phantom Lemurian
That's right.
crystal. So there are, but most Lemurian crystals, or all Lemurian crystals, come from one location in the world, and that's how you can. First thing you can do to check the authenticity, because there's a lot of crystals out there being called Lemurians that aren't necessarily Lemurian
Mm.
crystals. A lot of quartz, clear quartz, is called Lemurian crystal, but it
So how do
absolutely
you check? How would
not.
you check their
Um,
authenticity? So someone walks into a crystal shop.
yeah,
Well, although we probably don't recommend you buying them in a crystal shop per se. So how does somebody
yes.
tell that they are or are not authentic Lemurian crystals?
Well, if they're labeled as a Lemurian crystal, they really need to check with the shop owner, you know, where's the location in the world these are from. And if they say the
Mm.
Minas Gerais, Brazil, then that is the right location. So if they say, I don't know the location, I would doubt that it is Lemurian, because the Lemurians from the Minas Gerais are more expensive than a normal quartz, because they're more harder to find. And
Mm.
there's a lot of quartz out there in the world. Clear quartz is the most abundant mineral. Lemurian quartz only comes from one location. Then the second thing you
Did
want to
you
look
say
for,
that there were some from Colombia as well, or was that
there
something else?
are, yes, so there
There's some.
isn't a Lemurian light crystal that comes from Colombia, and it's very, very clear. And it is a Lemurian energy. It's not the classic energy, but it is definitely a Lemurian energy. So Colombia and the Minas Gerais, Brazil, um, yes, the Colombian Lemurians from the Penis Blancas mine are Lemurians as well. So
Mm.
there are people who are saying, I'm finding Lemurians in America, in Arkansas, in Russia, and all sorts of places. When that happens, I always have an open mind, and I just sit with the crystal and feel the energy of it, and I feel for myself, does this feel like the blueprint of Lemurian crystal or not?
Mm.
Being familiar with the crystal's energy, that you can do that. But if you don't have that
Yeah.
yet, you kind of gonna, I wouldn't accept anything out of the Minas Gerais or Colombia as
Yes.
a Lemurian. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
it'll have
Fabulous.
ridge lines and markings. So they have horizontal lines, look like steps on them. Lemurian crystals have to have that, because that is the encoding of the crystals with the Lemurian information and
That's
remembrance and
right.
healing energy. So you need to look for the horizontal ridges along
Mm.
the length, and you always have those as well.
Yeah, fabulous. But if you can't find them in your crystal shop, you can find them on Elo's crystal shop online. So I'm going to be
Yeah,
sharing
true.
all of Eloise's links. Her crystal shop on Shopify is it, but she also does live sales.
Hmm.
I think you do have an online crystal course as well. Is that right?
Yes, I've got a short course there to Introduction to Lemurian Energy, and it's all on my website. There's the shop, and there's occasionally you'll find a mermaid course on there as well. There isn't one at the moment, but they're probably later this year. A Lemurian mermaid awakening. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Well,
Uh-huh.
I will share all of Eloise's links and all the things and all her offerings. It's always a pleasure to have conversation with you. It's almost like a catching up, like what's going on in the realms,
I know.
as well as the
Yeah.
human lives and
Uh-huh.
things, because our techniques are changing, our maybe our dreams and visions are like all things are always on the move and evolving. So I'm so grateful for your energy, for all that you do and all that you be. Thank you for shining the beacon of light and
Uh-huh.
awakening others, awakening mermaids. So, thank you very much. And I really enjoyed our conversation together.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been amazing. Thanks.